This video is going to go over the third day of our project on cost of college. So I'm going to go ahead and just remind you that you should have already done day 1 and 2, because if you didn't, then you can't do day 3. So day 3, we're going to talk about the cost of college, actually. So we're going to look at the tuition and also how much it costs to live on campus. So I'm going to read this. Today we will gather historical tuition costs for your 2 schools of your chosen fields. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is you need to create a table with the headings tuition, room and board, and total cost. And we need to go from 2009 to 2019. I actually need to change that. It's going to be 2018. Okay, so in Notability, you can do it on paper or whatever you want to do. I just need somewhere to just work out the cost. So we're going to start in the year 2009, and we're going to go all the way to 2018. So 2018, okay? All right, so we're also going to look at the tuition and the rooming and the total cost. To get the total cost, we just add those two together. So let's do that first. So where it says gather, underlined in blue, that's a link, so you can click on that. And we're going to base this off of the example that I have linked onto Canvas. So we're going to go to the University of Michigan. So I'm just going to type in Michigan, actually, because that's just, I cannot spell, apparently. Michigan. Search. Oh, because I spelled Michigan wrong. That's awkward. Okay, and then we need to go to the University of Michigan. So I'm going to click on that. So if you click on the University of Michigan, it'll display these bar graphs. And if you're just looking at, if you don't click on it, it's only showing you what it costs for the year of 2018 and 2019. So it doesn't show you the full history of it. So clicking on it, I have this bar graph. Now, the teal colors are going to, that is not what I wanted it to do. Come on. The teal colors indicate in-state tuition. So if you live in the state of Michigan and you were to go to this school, this is how much it would cost you on average. If you live out of state, so if you don't live in Michigan, you're going to pay the out-of-state tuition. Now, if you don't live in that state, you're always going to be paying more. So if you wanted to go to school in Arkansas versus Texas, since we live in Texas, the Arkansas schools are going to charge you out-of-state tuition because you're not a resident of Arkansas. All right, so we also wanted to show us how much it would cost for us to live there. So I'm going to click on the checkbox for show room and board. So I'm going to click on that, and then it'll inflate. It'll show the lighter color. Now, since the University of Michigan is not in Texas, we're going to be looking at the out of state. So we're going to start in the year 2009 and go all the way to 2018. Remember, you need to click on the blue because we're out of state. So the dark blue is going to show us what the tuition is going to cost. The tuition is going to be $34937. So for 34937, so that's a tuition just for 1 year in 2009. And then I'm going to click on, so sometimes this doesn't work very well, you might have to click multiple times. And then the lighter blue, if I click on that, will give me the rooming, how much it costs to room there. And that'll be $8,924. And then to get the total cost, you would add those two together, and you would get $43,861. Okay, now you're going to do this for all the way until 2018. So I'll go ahead and do 2010 just to show you one more time. Remember, you make sure you click on the out of state because we don't live in Michigan. We're in Texas. So come on. Okay, 2010, I click on the dark blue, and I'll just show you, for instance, if you hit the green color, it'll say in-state tuition there. So just make sure you're clicking the blue. Whoops, wrong school. Okay, University of Michigan, 2010, the tuition was $36,001. And the rooming costs, again, this thing was if you have a computer, it works way better, but you're just going to have to deal with your iPad, I suppose. And then the rooming that year was $9,962. What is going on with my iPad? Let me add those together. So I get $45,963. So I need to do that for every single year up until the 2018. So you should have a bunch of data points. All right, let's go back to Canvas. So after we do that, after you figure out all those costs, and I know it says here is an example. I don't have one yet because I have not uploaded it, but there will be one. After you do that, we're going to use the green Desmos. And the reason why we're using the green and not the blue test mode one is because the green one allows us to save things. And so if you are not done by the end of class, you can at least save it. And so when you go home, you have it in Desmos. We're going to use Desmos to use regression. And regression, remember, is a calculator that kind of helps us, or it's a tool that helps us calculate the best fit for the data points that we have provided. So given those points, what's the best estimate of a line that goes through all of those points? And we're going to use linear regression and also exponential regression. All right, so let's go to Desmos. Now, in Desmos, I have already typed in my table. Now instead of writing 2009 for these, I wrote 09, 10, 11, 12, just so that it's a little bit easier for my Desmos. I don't have to go to like the 2000s to look at my points. So I just did the last 2 digits. And then the Y column is all of my costs. Now, if you don't know how to do Desmos, there are instructions on the bottom of this page in Canvas. So in instructions for regression in Desmos, step 1, click the plus sign in the upper left corner to add a table. So you would hit the plus sign in the upper left corner and add a table. But I already have one, so I have typed it in. And I have X1 and Y1. Remember, X1 is your time. Your Y1 should be your total cost. So it would be all of these numbers, your total cost, so rooming and tuition. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. I want to go to Desmos. So after I type in my table, I'm going to do linear regression and exponential. So for linear regression, remember, it's y equals mx plus b is what our equation is, so slope-intercept form. So you're probably used to seeing this. Now, the calculator is like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know that you want me to do regression. So in order to do regression, you need to tell it to use this table. So anywhere you see an X or a Y, you need to do X1 and Y1. So just type a 1 right next to it, and it'll automatically make it a subscript. And then we'll make a 1 there. And you're like, whoa, where'd all my stuff go? Okay, so you need to tell it to do regression by putting a little tilde sign, and which is a little swiggle right there. And then it should pop up a bunch of information, R squared, R, M, and B. All right, so the R value is your correlation coefficient, just the R. Don't care about the R squared. Okay, the R value is our correlation coefficient. And we did learn about this in Unit 4. And if it was closer to 1, it was more of a perfect correlation, which is that means that your line and your points are like basically on top of each other. And if it's a 0, then it's like nothing to do, like does not relate, unrelated. So the closer it is to 1, the better. So we also need to do the exponential regression, and that is also here in your Canvas direction. So on this right side for exponential regression in Desmos, it says to type y1 and then the tilde a times b to the power of x1. So I have y1 actually, y1, and then I have a tilde, and I have x, or not x, a b to the power of, so that's going to be that button, and then x. And then don't type down, you want your 1 to be attached to the x. So if you type like the arrow over, that's not going to work. You want your little cursor to be right next to the x. Okay, it's super important that you turn on log mode because it gives you your R values. If you don't have it, it doesn't give you the R value, so make sure it's checked. Now you're going to compare which R value is closer to 1. So for the first one, for linear, I had 0.9949. For exponential, I have 0.9966. So the one that's closer to 1 would be my exponential. So for my part tomorrow when I'm using these equations, I'm going to use the exponential one. But right now you're like, I don't see anything on my graph. So if you zoom out a little bit, you kind of see a green line and then a purple line all the way over there. And if you zoom out even further, you see like a bunch of red dots that like are right on top of each other. So you're like, well, that's not helpful. So what you're going to do, you're going to hit the settings bar in the top. You're going to restrict your x-axis and y-axis so that it can zoom in on where all your points are. So just looking at my x table over here, the smallest x value I have is 9, or 09. So I'm going to restrict it to make it 0. And then the largest x value I have is 18, because that's the largest year that we did. So I'll probably restrict it to 20. And then my y values, the smallest one is about 43,000. And then my biggest y value is about 61,000. So now I can see more of my points. And so when you're doing your slideshow, which I'll show you in a second, you're going to take a picture of all these things. And remember, regression's just trying to do the best estimate of a line going through all your points. So in this case, we have a purple and a green line trying to go through all those red points. But we know that the purple one is a better fit because our R value is closer to 1. All right. Oops, my Canvas restarted. So let's go back to our Canvas. End of course project, day 3. Okay, so after we do green Desmos, we're going to calculate user regression, and then you will determine which line is a better fit for your data, either linear or exponential, and explain why. Now you're going to do this in your slideshow. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on the example of the slideshow. So your slideshow should look something like this after today, because the next day we'll keep adding more and more. So the first slide, you should have just your career of choice or cost of college, whatever you want to title it, and then put your name on the front. This slide is optional, but it is good to know so that the person reading your slideshow knows like what careers you're talking about. So the person that made this chose psychology and then physical therapy, and then they kind of showed the degree required, the university they chose, and then the salary for that career. Okay, so I did base this off of the person that made the slideshow. So when I was doing my Desmos and everything, that was based off of the University of Michigan. So this person who did psychology chose Michigan. They took a picture of their table over here, took a picture of their regression equation. So they have the linear one up there and then the exponential down there. And then they have their graph. So you see how they zoomed in on their graph so they could see all their points. Now my graph looks a little bit different, but whatever works. As long as I can see all those points in your two lines, we're all good. They also explained which one fits better. So they said the exponential model fits my numbers the best because the correlation coefficient is 0.9965. Now, that's not enough of a reason. You really need to be like, because it is close, it's 9965, which is closer to 1 compared to the other correlation coefficient, which is 9948. They also wrote both of their equations that they got. So on Desmos, when you graph these, it gives you let's look at the green one. So let's not even look at purple. Let's not look at purple. So the green we have, our M value is 1806, and our B value is 27606. So if I were to create an equation, let's go. So I know that I have y equals mx plus b, and it said the M value was 1806.88, and then the B value was 27606. So all you need to do is you need to just plug in those values. X plus 27606.5. So this is like your linear equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So you're just plugging your a and b value. Now, you only need to do that if your linear is the best one. But in this case, my exponential would be the best one. Now, that's different for everybody. Whoa. It's different for everybody. So some people's linears might be a better fit. Some people's exponential might be a better fit. It's really dependent on the data that you provide. In this case, we have exponential that fits better. So for exponential, we know that the equation, the base equation would be a times b to the power of x. So our a value that we were given was 32,354. So 0.9? Yeah. And then our b value is 1.035. Okay, so it gave us an a and a b value. And so you just plug those in. So you have y equals 32354.9 times 1.035 to the power of x. And then when you're typing your PowerPoint, if you have a question on how to make your x the exponent, it is kind of hard. So when you're typing it in Google Slides, you might have to type it in like this. So maybe parentheses. And then just do the little up arrow and then x. So I know that you mean exponent. It's just that in Google Slides, it might be hard to do the exponent. It is easier if you're on a computer, though. So if you're on a computer, it will be a lot easier to do. But other than that, you do that. You do that for one career, and then you do that again. You do all of this again for your other career. So let's go over to the next slide. So the next slide would be physical therapist. They did the University of Miami. So they did the same thing. They have a table. They found all of the costs for each year. And then they did their regression equations. Make sure your log mode is checked. So this person didn't have log mode checked, so that's not good. And then you're going to have a picture of your graph and then have your explanation on which one fits better. And in this case, the linear model fit better than the exponential this time. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, but hopefully that covers what you need to do for this day. And then the last thing is you need to turn in your assignment by submitting a link to your slideshow. So since I have a teacher iPad, it's not going to let me show you, but what you need to do is you need to go, so after you've made your Google Slides, let me go to Google Slides. Do I have slides on this? That's Microsoft. Oh, Google Slides. Okay, here we go. So we have a ton of things in here. career of choice. So this is the one that I've been showing you. So let's say that I was making all of these, right? So I have all of those. That's the example that I have linked on Canvas. So if you're wondering, it's under student example of slideshow. In order to share this and turn it in, you're gonna hit those three dots in the corner, hit share and export. Now make sure your link sharing is turned on, and then you're gonna hit copy link. And so once you do that, you're gonna go to Canvas, do submission, and then once you click submission, you're gonna click turn in. You can click website URL, you're gonna paste that URL and then just hit submit in the top right. The top right corner where it says submit might not be like in white, just click it, it'll let you submit anyways. So other than that, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, but hopefully that covers it all.